Hey everybody, welcome back to some more live coding streams. Today I thought we would look at Kivy. Kivy is a library for Python that lets you do GUI applications, but it lets you do a little more, well, it lets you do GUI applications, but they're supposed to be cross-platform and work across mobile devices too. So we're gonna check it out and see how it works just for making some simple desktop applications. We're gonna kind of get started. I've never really used it in earnest, so it's gonna be installing and kind of figuring out how it works. And I've worked with several other GUI libraries before, so I'm not totally new to the GUI stuff, but Kivy's relatively new to me, so let's go ahead and get started with it. So I found the website, it's kivy.org, and we're gonna go to download, and it looks like they've got some documentation about how to install it on Ubuntu, so we'll start right there. Okay, it looks like they've got an apt repository that we can use. So let's go ahead and follow their instructions. Now when you add an apt repository, this allows you to add it via apt install and get updates via apt upgrade. So we'll go ahead and do that. It's kind of their official, it looks like Ubuntu doesn't have an official package, but the Kivy maintainers provide the package, so we'll trust them. And we'll go ahead and add their PPA. Let's see. This PPA contains stable release of Kivy. That's fine. Okay. It looks like it's downloading and it's done. So now we can do an apt update, and that will refresh and get all the latest package lists from all of our packages. And now we should be able to install the package. Now in Ubuntu, apt by itself is the preferred way to install, so it's not apt-get anymore, it's just apt. And so we'll do apt python kivy, python apt install python kivy. And let's see what's going to install. Docutils, okay, that's some Python documentation tools. libSDL, so it looks like it uses SDL under the hood. And it does mention, on the home page, it does mention that it is OpenGL. It's all OpenGL based. Yeah, so this is their home page. Kivy, open source Python library for rapid development of applications that make use of innovative user interfaces such as multi-touch apps. Cross-platform, Kivy runs on Linux, Windows, OS X, Android, iOS, and Raspberry Pi. You can run the same code on all supported platforms. And that's what makes it look really cool, because it can be useful for making desktop GUIs, but also Android. So it looks really attractive. It can natively use most inputs, protocols, and devices, including Windows Manager Touch, Windows Manager Pen, Mac OS X trackpad, and Magic Mouse, and a number of others. Business friendly. Kivy is 100% free to use under an MIT license, starting from 1.7.2, and LGPL3 for previous versions. Okay, MIT is a bit more permissive than LGPL. LGPL will let you use it for commercial, but you have to dynamically link the libraries. You can't statically link them, and there's some other weird things, but the MIT license is pretty free. You just have to give attribution. The toolkit is professionally developed, backed, and used. You can use it in a commercial product. The framework is stable and has a well-documented API. We'll see about that. Plus a programming guide to help you get started, and that's awesome. That's one thing about documentation. There's a couple parts to documentation. One of it is the API documentation, which is like the dictionary but you should also have a guide, like a how-to that actually walks somebody through how to use it. GPU accelerated. The graphics engine is built over OpenGL ES2 using a modern and fast graphics pipeline. The toolkit comes with more than 20 widgets. That's good. Widgets are like slider, text box, button, label, image. All highly extensible. Many parts are written in C using Python with regression testing. Okay, look, and here's an example, usage example. That's where we'll start. So, actually, yeah, I should have hit yes. Let's go ahead and install. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so now we've got the Python Kivy package installed. Let's go with PyCharm and give it just a minute and a half to load up. Okay. Okay, so we have the cookbook open, and I suppose we can just dump it in there. Actually, I think I'll make a totally separate project for this one. Okay, so let's create a new project. Pure Python. We'll call this one Kivy examples. And let's just go ahead and use, well, let's see. So when we installed Kivy, we did it using the system packages. So did it install it for Python 3 or only for Python 2? It probably only installed it for Python 2. Yeah, I don't see it on Python 3, so I wonder if they have a package. If we do apt install Python 3-Kivy, and they do, excellent. They do have a package for Python 3 Kivy. Okay, so let's do this. Let's make a new virtual environment using virtual end. We'll put it right inside our project called vend and base interpreter there, and let's also inherit the global site packages so that we get Kivy. And let's give it a minute. It's going to show you down here that it's processing and indexing and doing all that. Alright. I'm guessing those were some kind of tests that were running. I don't know what those little pop-ups were. But let's give it just another minute. Excuse me 1 second while I take a drink of water. Alright, it looks like we are good to go. So, a couple things first. Let's add a readme, because I know we're going to be taking lots of notes. And I'm going to want to have something to come back to, because I may not look at Kivy again for a while. SecDevOps AI says, my main man Nanotano. Welcome good sir. If anybody hasn't checked out that channel, Mr. Ronald Eddings has a really cool channel. He talks a lot about Python and security kind of stuff. Our channel topics overlap, that's for sure. We actually did a video together the other day about Drupal and the big Drupal CVE that came out. What are you building today? Today I am working with Kivy. Kivy is like a GUI library for Python that's supposed to work on mobile as well, like one code base. So I'm checking it out. We're going to be building a cookbook and seeing what we can come up with. I've got kind of an agenda, like I've built GUI apps before, so there's a couple things you use a lot. Like you use labels, buttons. Obviously, you got to do a button and figure out how the callbacks work on the buttons. How to get and set text on things like text fields. And then I'm going to try out, see how to add a menu. If they have like a file edit menu at the top you can add to. And things like that. So we'll see. We'll probably build a simple app like a REST tester. Or like a Reddit feed lister or something as like a simple example. Okay, so we got Kivy. Yeah, let's at least add a link to the homepage to start, and a simple git ignore to make sure we don't add our virtual environment. SecDevOps AI, Ronald says, I used that a while ago at PyCon. Looks like it's evolved quite a bit. Yeah, like they said on the website that it is professionally maintained, professionally developed. So I guess there is a company behind it. I don't know if there's just a company that sponsors it, or they have their own company specifically for Kivy. I don't know. But yeah, they do actively put development into it. I think it's really, as far as I know, it's the only mature library, I say mature, but relatively mature library that targets Android. And that's what makes it look really cool. So get used to it on the desktop and then maybe port it over to Android and see how it works. So let's try a new directory called, we'll just call this one Hello World. And we'll just call it hello.py, and then we'll look at their example here. So using an example from Kivy, well, let's start down here. Class app, class test app, and you inherit their app. So I guess they have a base class that gives you all the goodies out of the box. And then all you have to do is put a build function. It sounded like the cat was climbing up the wall over there. Okay. So let's go ahead and try this out. We're going to have to create a class, and we'll call it our Hello app, and we inherit from app, but we have to import it. So if we do Alt-Enter in PyCharm, it always gives us the help, and it found it for us, so we can say go ahead and import it from Kivy app import. And then we have to do a build function, right? And then what do we put in the build function? Return a button. And what is text? Text equals my first button. Let's see, so there's two buttons we can import. It's definitely not the GTK button, it definitely is the Kivy button. And yeah, that matches here. And then app.run at the bottom. So at the bottom we'll go ahead and say if name equals main. That means if the files run directly. And then we'll say, you know, my app equals a new instance of our class. And then we have to say run. Like that. So I guess that's it. Now let's go ahead, we'll just right click and hit run. It says we're using PyCharm. Awesome. We got a window. Now, that's awesome. That was very easy to get set up. And it's a button we can click on. It doesn't do anything. Now I wonder if it's just as simple as callback equals, you know, what do we do there? Be social. Okay, so is that the next step? Is that the next part of the tutorial? Tweet. Okay. Let's go to help and let's check out their documentation. Getting started with Kivy and the API reference. So I'm going to make a bookmark folder for Kivy And I'm gonna bookmark a couple of these since I'll probably need them in the future. So we'll getting started with Kivy. Creating Kivy apps is fun and rewarding. This guide should be the perfect starting point to get you on the right track for app development. Okay. Using Kivy on your computer, you can create apps that run on desktop, OS X, Linux, Windows, iPad, iPhone, Android tablets. Okay, installation, yeah, we already did this. So installation, the first app, properties. I don't think I need any properties yet. Oh yeah, one special thing about Kivy is that they have their own special language, or whatever, yeah, Kivy design language, and this is how you define the layouts. So it's all the layouts are driven through these little layout files. So we'll have to figure out how those work. Okay, so let's go back to their first app. It looks like this is different than what we did. A Pong tutorial. Ooh. Get started, first app. So should we do the Pong tutorial? Let's see. The Pong tutorial introduces the fundamental design patterns and the app development process. You'll create a simple... Yeah, that looks like a good one to get familiar with it. Okay, yeah, we've got working Kivy, and we did this. Okay, so we've got our app, and then we can just return a widget. Okay, so... Oh, I know, I need to make my screen full. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to PyCharm, and instead of just returning... Well, let's make another one. We'll call this one Pong. We'll make it called pong.py. So we need to make an app, so we're going to call it our Pong app, and it needs to inherit an app, and we need to give it a build function, and then we need to return it a widget. And what did they use? They made the game. The game was a whole widget itself. Pong game widget, and normally I wouldn't add, you know, the class as a part of the name, but because this is kind of a tutorial and an example, I want to be kind of explicit and helpful with my variable names. So we actually want to create a class, yeah, and we want to inherit a widget, I believe is what they inherited. So if we do Alt-Enter, import this name, yeah, Kivy widget. Okay, so we're creating our own widget, but what goes in it? Okay, so we got all this, and down at the bottom we'll say the same thing. If name equals main, then go ahead and create an instance of our Pong app and run it. Okay, so if we run it, it should just run and do nothing. Cool. So we got a blank window, but we need our widget. We need our widget to do something. So I guess it's going to explain widgets next. Okay. Go ahead and run it. It should show a black window. Great. There's a tree. There's a widget tree. So that's the root widget in our widget tree. So our Pong game widget is going to be the parent widget that hosts all the other ones. No problem. That sounds good. We will use a .kv file to determine the look and feel of the Pong game class. Since our app class is called Pong app, we can simply create a file called pong.kv in the same directory. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And we're in the Pong directory right now. So we'll make a pong.kv. And what do we put in it? And add the following contents. Okay, so I guess this needs to match up with our widget name. So we're defining our widget here. And we could probably define all our widgets in this file, it sounds like. But, okay, so the widget's going to have a canvas, a label, and a label. And it looks like they're all at the same level in the tree below. it. So we're going to do a canvas, a label, and a label. And then we're going to give each one of them some properties. So the canvas is going to be, is it capital C? No, it's lowercase c. Okay, so give it a rectangle. And that's going to have some properties too. So it's going to have a position and a size. And how do we set those? Self.centerX. Okay, that's a nice variable to be able to access to. CenterX -5. Interesting. Some of this kind of rings a bell. Like they have 10 units across. So -5 would be half. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Why they're using the number 5 specifically there. So there must be a set size. Oh yeah, okay. On the next line we're saying size 10. So we're defining the size of how many units it's gonna be. So it's 10 wide and as tall as it can be. Okay, so back here we got label, we got font size, CenterX top, font size, CenterX top, and text. And we'll say top label, question mark. I think that's with, okay, yeah. Top is root.top -50. CenterX is going to be, now how do we do that? Okay, root.width divided by 4. We'll figure out the proportions and the units and all that as we go along. Font size 70, this is going to be kind of big. Okay, and the same thing, the second one's going to be exactly the same thing except for the width is going to be a little different. The width is going to be divided by 3 times 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and... Why is this one complaining? Oh. Okay. Oops. Let's go back to our pong.py and run it. And now that we have... Okay. So it's not the top label, it's actually the left label. And there's a line, there's a big line in the middle. So where's that line in the middle coming from? So what happens if we said... Oh, this is the left label. And this one was supposed to be the right label? Let's see. Oh, it's not root width divided by... It's... There. I did the math wrong on that, so this should be the right label. So what if we said the top was... Oh, that's the top of the label? So if we did -150... Okay, let's go ahead and run it again. We should have tweaked it a little bit. Okay. So we can give the offset of the label. I'm a little confused on where this middle line is coming from. So is the black background is part of the labels, and so if I made them wider, like if we made the left one wider, would it overlap and get rid of that? No. I guess we'll figure that out in a little bit. Now I'm also not sure, maybe this size 10, so yeah, maybe that's actually pixels. And what we're making there in the middle is that rectangle. Yeah, so we just made the middle rectangle bigger, so... Okay, so this is the middle line. I wonder if you can put comments in these KV files. Oh, thanks, Haito, yeah. At first I thought that the canvas was like the black background. But yes. So, that's interesting, I guess the default color there is white. We'll figure that out. Common error. The name of the KV file must match the name of the app. Okay? Yeah, we did that. That's okay. Explaining the KV syntax file. Before going on to the next step, the very first line we have... Oh, I guess it is important. This line is required in every KV file. And the Kivy version intended for. So what Kivy version do we have? 1.10.1. So let's go ahead and do that. Kivy 1.10.1. And it's #Kivy. #Kivy. Yeah, that looks good now. Okay, so I'm gonna skip through that. We kind of figured that out. Okay, add the ball. Class pong ball widget. Okay, so now we're back in the code. So it looks like we're done for now in the KV file. And we're now going to go modify our widget. And so we're going to store some properties in the class. Velocity, the speed of the ball, and the position. Okay, oh, it's a totally separate widget. Okay, so we're going to create a new one called pong ball. We're going to give that one some properties like velocity, and then we're going to define that in the Kivy file too. So I'm going to start in the Kivy file actually, because it makes more sense to me. So here we're going to make the pong ball widget, and then I guess it's going to be a canvas. And can you just do a circle? Yeah, you can do an ellipsis. Okay, cool. Ellipse, position, self-position, size, self.size. Okay. Self.plus and size is self.size. Okay, that's pretty intuitive. I like that, and it's nice how you can kind of reference the class in the KV file. And is that it? I think that's it. We're just defining a circle. Oh, we need a size. So we give it the size at the same level of canvas definition. I think. How did they do it? 50, 50. So that's what an ellipsis needs. Two sizes, width and height, I guess. Okay, and then back in the main pie, you create, yeah, the pong ball widget. So let's go ahead and create the pong ball widget. Class pong ball widget, and it's going to inherit all the widget properties, and it needs a velocity x. And what did they default it to? 0? And a velocity y. Oh, numeric property. Okay, so we don't just give it a number. We have to tell it kind of specifically it's a numeric property, and we'll start it out at 0. We're gonna have to import it, so we Alt-Enter, and it found it for us. Okay. And what else? A move function so that it updates its position. And it looks like they have a nice vector function. Okay, yeah, so self-position just updates its own position by adding to its position a vector, which I'm guessing is going to default to a 2-dimensional vector. And we just give it self.velocity. Okay, and velocity is a combination of these two. Got it. So velocity is a reference list. What is it? A reference list property. And we're going to pass that, both of the velocity values. And we need to import that, so Alt-Enter. Oh, I misspelled it. Okay, now it can find it. And then we update the self-position by saying self-position equals self-position plus a vector. And we go ahead and import that. And then we pass it, I guess, the pointer. I've never really seen the star in Python, honestly. So, interesting. And then we want to pass it the velocity vector, right? Self.velocity. Yeah. Okay, so that's actually pretty nice. I like this so far. And I guess that's it. We have to give it a Pong game. So if we run it now, I'm guessing that we're going to have a ball that just constantly moves around. And it probably moves around really fast. My guess is that it's updating every frame. And it's going to spin around really fast. I don't even see it. Maybe it's already off the screen. Because it's not bouncing around anyway. Oh, I guess I set this. I set the speed to 0, right? well, let's finish going through what they're saying. Okay, so I've got the code. The code looks to be pretty much in sync with what they've got. The Pong ball, we got that. The Pong game. Oh, so we need to add the Pong ball inside the Pong game as like an element. So Pong ball widget, and then there we just tell it to center, and we center it based off of the parent. So let's try running it again. Yeah, let's run it again. And now we do see the ball there. Excellent. But we need it to move around. So what if we give it a 1? I don't know if it's a float, so maybe we should give it 0.1. In fact, you know, why not? Let's start with 0.1, slow it down. Let's see how fast it moves. Oh, well, we're not calling move, I guess, yet. We're not telling it to move. We need to put that into some kind of update function that happens every frame. Yeah, adding ball animation, making the ball move. Cool, so now we have a ball, and it even has a move function, but it's not moving it. Let's fix it. Okay, so this is how you schedule things. Because you don't want it to happen every frame. I learned this a long time ago when I used to make games in QBasic. And games I wrote in QBasic would be really slow back then. And so you could just have it update every frame and it kind of came out smooth. But as computers got faster, when it updated every frame, the game would run incredibly fast. So it's much better to do it based off time, and it looks like they provide a nice way to schedule an update function. So we need the move method of our ball to be called regularly. Luckily, Kivy makes this pretty easy by letting us schedule any function we want using the clock and specifying the interval. Excellent. And so the 1 divided by 60 is saying we want it to do 60 times a second, basically. And we want to update the game 60 times a second. Okay, so I can see that. We put that probably in our build. Yeah, they put it in the build right after they define the game object. Yeah, okay, so we need to create... Wait. So they're creating the widget first, and then they're passing the update of the widget. Okay, got it. So we do need to create the widget first, and then we'll say clock.schedule task. Well, let's import it. Import. Oh, they have different ones. Kivy clock, Kivy properties clock. I think it's Kivy clock. Let's make sure. So yeah, Kivy.clock.clock. Okay. So Kivy.clock.clock, and it was schedule. Hold on a second. Up at the top, my import is import clock. Okay, so I should be able to call clock.schedule. Let me go back to their page we were looking at. Schedule interval. Okay, there's no autocomplete there. So I wonder if I'm referencing the right thing, and then we'll say 1.0 divided by 60.0. Okay. And then we want to return the widget. So now if we run it, I think we'll start seeing the animation. Oh no, it broke. Where did it break? It broke at pong.py line 30 on run. Okay, well that helps. Yes, so my clock, I think I have the wrong... I might have the wrong import. Let me see if... No, they've got the right import. So what do? They create the widget, and they schedule the interval, and then they return the widget. Now what am I missing here? This is... Okay, yeah, this is how my game... Oh, I need the update function. I need the update function to exist. I thought that was kind of an inherited property of the widget. And I thought it was weird that a widget would have an update property, but it doesn't. You have to create it because it's just a regular widget, and it doesn't have an update function. And I guess we want to say ball dot move, but we need to create the ball, but it already exists. So can we just reference it like that? How do they do that? Hold on. Call ball dot move and other stuff. Yeah. So how self dot ball equals object property. Now I'm a little confused on how they're referencing the ball, because we call it pong ball here, and we don't give it any other name besides pong ball, as far as I know. So where are they okay. However, this still doesn't change the fact that we don't have a reference to the pong ball. They're answering all the questions as I have them, so this is actually a really good guide. I find it very well written. So this doesn't change the fact we don't have a reference to the pong ball child widget. To fix this, we can add an object property to the pong game and hook it up to the widget created in the KV rule. So I would expect we put like the name of it there though, but it just like it automatically. How does it exactly automatically figure out the name? Once that's done, we can easily reference the ball property inside the update method. Okay, so they create it. Do they assign it somewhere? Don't forget to hook it up in the KV file. Got it. There it is. By giving the child widget an ID and setting the Pong game's ball object property to that ID. Okay. Okay, so I gotta make sure I do this right. Inside our game, we give it a ball with the ID. Okay, so this is our variable name, and this is the ID. So we go back to our KV file, and in our game, we want to say, we want to create a variable, a reference called the ball, and we want it to reference something of our ID. So I'm gonna call it, I don't know, main pong ball, just to be clear about what's different between pong ball and the IDs and this and that. So the ID is going to be called main pong ball. Wait, no, we don't do it there, sorry. We do it here? Is that right? Yeah, inside. There we go. So I believe that's how we're going to do it. And then back in our file, what did I miss? The reference to the ball. So in update, we're going to call self.ball.move. Just like that, I think. So let's run it. Let's see. Value is immutable. Okay, let's see what I'm doing there. Oh. In the update. Okay, so where's this? Where is this freaking out and having an error? And it's in the tick, so it's going through the update, and it's happening in the update in the ball move. Yeah, it's saying this is an immutable property. It's saying the position is an immutable property. Is that what it said? The run console. Value error. reference list property. Value length is immutable. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to the code that they showed how to do this. You know what? I don't think this would have any effect on it, but could it be the order there? I really don't think this, but I'd be surprised if this is it, because then we're creating a new object first and then adding something to it. And well, no, because we're still trying to modify it here. So, oh, that did work. That's really interesting. That's got to be one of those little Python quirks. So, like, I guess I can't assign it to itself. Whatever. Switching these two worked. That kind of surprised me. Okay, so we'll run it, but it's not updating. So what's going on there? So I guess our move function is incomplete. Or what? What's going on here? It should be moving at this point, right? Just to make sure, I'm gonna look again. So we got, yeah, pong ball, widget, properties, reference list property. Yeah, reference list property. Move, doesn't take any parameters. Self-pos, vector, self-velocity. Yeah. Okay, so that looks good. And then adding the ball animation. So we did the clock schedule interval, and that seems to be taking. Okay, so let's actually do a print. How about we do a print statement? Print updating widget, and just see if it's even getting called. And it is. It's getting blasted. So but it's not drawing. So maybe they're gonna tell us in the next step why it's not drawing. Maybe we need to call update screen. Or like blit. If you ever worked with SDL, you have to call blit or blip or whatever it is. No, hold on. I think I went too far now. So in the update, they've got ball move, and then they basically just switch the velocity. If it, oh, you got to serve the ball. Oh, I guess my velocity is 0. That's why I'm kind of derping there. Okay, so they created a function called serve ball. I'm just gonna go ahead and they set it to 4. Let's try 4. Okay, awesome. So now it's doing that, and then they've got some logic basically to say if the ball bounce it off the walls, and so you say if it's too high, then how do they check the bounds? Ball.top is greater than self.height. Okay, so self being the screen, the whole game widget. So we want to see if the top of the ball is greater than the height. So if the top of the ball, it's going to be self.ball.top is greater than self.height, or if the ball bottom is less than self dot, oh wait, just 0, is self bottom less than 0, then velocity, now that's going to be y, velocity y times equals -1. That basically means velocity y equals velocity y times -1. Basically flip it around. And we're going to do something similar for the x. So we'll say self.ball. Is there a left? No. No, wait a second. So they did ball.top for the height, and then at the bottom they just checked the y. So that's interesting. I wonder why. I'm going to leave it with, maybe they don't have a bottom. Maybe the bottom is the y. Okay. That would make sense. The y is the bottom and the top is the top. So then the same thing here, we'll say So what did they do with the other one? So they do have a right. They don't have a left. I guess the X is the same thing. X. So I guess their coordinate system starts at the bottom left. Self.ball.right is greater than self.width. Or if the bottom, which is going to be self.ball. The left, I'm sorry, is less than 0. Self.velocity x times equals... Oh wait, it's not going to be self.velocity, it's the ball. Self.ball.velocity. Self.ball.velocity. Jeff Williams says, sweet, been interested to learn a bit about GUI with Python. So, if you're interested in GUI with Python, I do have a tutorial on how to use tkinter with Python. So I've got this GUI programming with Python, and it's all about how to use the tkinter library. And the nice thing about tkinter is that it comes installed with Python in most cases. In the Windows installer, then it comes installed with it, and the Mac one too, I believe. And on Linux, it usually comes with it. Otherwise, it's just another quick package install. But they have a limited set of widgets. It can do a few things. It's got buttons and text fields and menus and stuff, but it definitely doesn't do Android. It's really old, so that's a good one to start with if you want to do something really simple. Kivy is a bit more complicated, but it also does Android. So depends on what you want to do, but I'm liking Kivy so far. We'll see how it works. Okay, so yeah, we got our ball. I guess they didn't use floats there, so I'll avoid that. And I'll start same thing with 0. And I guess on the ball widget we can call one called kickoff, and then that will just set the velocity in equals 4. Self.velocity x equals 4, and same with the y. So that just kicks it off and starts it going in one direction. And so we'll want to start that at the start of the game. So maybe on the init. Where did they put it? We could put it in the init. Yeah, I guess they do it in the build. It's a good place to do it too. So we'll say game kickoff. Well, let's set the intervals, and then we'll say game kickoff. And that's actually not where it goes. It's the Pong ball widget that has the kickoff. So let's do this. Let's add the kickoff here, and then we'll say self.ball.velocity, and then we'll just do it like that. Now we've got the game kickoff setting the ball in motion. Okay, so let's run it. And we had a typo. There is no property name width. How about width? There we go. And look at that. It flew right off the screen. It flew right off. Come back. Interesting. And every time I resize the window, I guess it rebuilds the widget every time I resize the window. Which makes sense, it kind of has to. Yeah, so look, it's constantly rebuilding the window every time I resize it even a little bit. Okay, so that's interesting. We could probably disable that. I wonder if they'll show us how in the tutorial. But there's a problem, it's going too far, so if self.right is greater than self.width or self.ball.x self-velocity x switch. Then do I have my greater thans backwards? If self.right... Oh, times -1. That's what I need to do. I need to switch it. Okay, so this should work better. Excellent. That looks really good. Okay, looks like we're getting close. We're probably almost done with this tutorial. Looks like we're about 80% done down the page. Connecting input events. Okay, adding player inputs. Sweet, our ball is bouncing around. The only thing missing now are the movable player rackets and keeping track of the score. We won't go over all the details of creating the class and the Kivy rules again. So let's focus on how to move the player widgets in response to user input. In Kivy, a widget can react to input by implementing the on-touch down or on-touch move and on-touch up methods. Very cool. So just by inheriting the widget class, it looks like we get all of those functions, which are basically callbacks. Okay. Okay, so we're going to implement the on-touch move in the Pong game class itself. I'd rather put it... No, that makes sense. Yeah, putting it right there. So on-touch move, and then we get the touch event. Interesting. So we'll just go def on-touch down. And then we get the touch event, which comes with the X and the Y, so we can see where the event happened. And so it's going to say if the touch, I guess this thing, if it happened on the left third, then it's player 1 changing. If it happened on the right, then it's player 2. And so I guess it's assuming that there's multi-touch, so it's like there's two people, there's one person on each side touching their controller, their Pong paddle. So that would probably be better to try on a tablet or something, but that's okay. So we'll say if touch.x is less than, I guess, self.width divided by, and the reason they're doing 3, I'll just do 2 so it goes right down the middle, just to make sure it works the way I think it does. Now what did I miss here? Wait, so on touchdown, what do we, yeah, then the ball dot x. No, wait, how are they doing it? Center x, center y? Center y. Wait, did I go too far? Did we make the paddles yet? We didn't even make the paddles yet. Right? We didn't even make the paddles. And they don't have it anywhere here. Yeah, so we're at the right spot. Okay. So the player 1, center Y, where the touch.y is. Okay, so we just say... We don't have a player 1 yet, but we're going to go ahead and assign the player 1, center Y, to the touch Y. And then the same thing here, so I'm just going to duplicate these lines. And we're going to say if touch.x is greater than, so if it happens on the other side, then we'll say it's player 2. And we'll do it the other way around, just so it looks nice. Okay. That's fine. But I'm still confused. Did they really not make the paddles yet? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, so they said you can figure out how to do it. We're not going to cover it here because we already did. So you have to do that part yourself. Okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. And... okay, so... back in the Kivy file, we're going to have to make the paddles. And so I guess that's just going to be a rectangle. So we'll copy this like that. We're going to say a Pong game... we're going to call it a Pong paddle. And no, we're not referencing anything from the Pong paddle. But no, wait a second. We do want a player 1 paddle, and that's going to be the player 1 paddle, and player 2 is going to be the player 2 paddle. Okay, and then we have to add the 2 paddles to our main widget. And the ID here, this is going to be player 1 paddle. and it has a center y of, we'll start with root.height divided by 2, so that it starts right in the middle. And then we'll make a second one, and I guess we need to set the center x. So we'll set center x is from the left for player 1, we'll just say it's 20 pixels off from the beginning. Okay, so Pong paddle, the second one. This one's going to have an ID of player 2 paddle. And then center y is going to be on the right side, so we'll say root.width minus... Wait. No, the center y is going to be the same thing, right in the middle. It's going to start right in the middle on the y. And on the x, we're going to say root.width minus 20, so it just starts on the back. So, Mishu Chowdhury says, what about this fox? And just for the record, it's a panda. But it does look like a fox. If you don't like the panda, I've got a couple other avatars. None of them are as good as the panda, though. Okay, so... Now... Ooh, this song is a little intense. Okay, we got Pong Ball widget. We got our 2 paddles now, right? 2 paddles. Canvas. Oh, it needs a size. And, well, so what? It's going to be a width. We'll give it 10, and we'll give it 40 tall. Let's just try running that and see if that works. No, it didn't like something. It didn't like my... Oh! I shouldn't be using equals here. These should be colons. Let's see how it runs now. No, it still didn't like something. In my Kivy file. Let's see. Where did it break? Let's make this bigger so I can read through this gigantic list of errors. Okay, so pong.pyline 50 on the run. On my Pong game widget. So let's take a look. Are there anything obvious here? We need 2 Pong paddles. They've got separate IDs. Oh. Is it not center? Is it not center underscore? No, yeah, that's how we're doing it here. Center underscore X. So that looks okay. And maybe it's not the center Y though, it's the top. Maybe that's it? Let's give it a shot. No. So let's go check out the rectangle class. Kivy file rectangle. Oh, the canvas. Yeah, so what we're building is a canvas. I believe that's what we want to build the paddle out of. Okay, so we want the rectangle. Okay, so there's a position, a size. So how do we do it in the KV file though? Here we go. Canvas rectangle. Oh, you can give it an image just like that. That's nice. Pause, self.pause. Let's see. Okay, let's try searching for Kivy rectangle example. No, I don't want it in the Python. I want it in the KB file. I need to refer to a couple references to see. Okay. So let's go back real quick to this thing where they said okay, we won't go all the details of creating the Kivy rules again. Yeah, so it just says we covered already, so I'm guessing it's still just the canvas and the rectangle. So as a reference, we've got this one rectangle, and okay, so we got to give it a position and a size. I think that's okay. Position and a size. Let's just try self.pause and see what happens there. Does it start in the center? No, it breaks. Hold on. Is it because I'm trying to reference them here? I'm gonna comment those out just for now. Just to see if that's having any problem. Okay, a weak reference. A weak proxy. What's it complaining about? Unknown, class. Yeah, so something, it looks like something's not lining up between my Kivy file. Okay, so it's the paddle. Oh. Now maybe the size doesn't go there. Now how come I did it twice? How come I did size twice in there? Run? No, that didn't help. What if I gave it a bigger size here? I don't think that has anything to do with it. Yeah, give me some better clues. Come on. Okay. So let me try just making one. Oh, you know what? Well, no, I deleted these out because I think I renamed it so it should be player one paddle, like that. Right, so it's the name. Then the ID here, and then the name of the, no, so that's right. Oh, I think I need to make a class here. I need to make a class even if it just says pass. There we go. That's what it was complaining about. Okay. Cool. We're looking good now. Now I'm gonna put this back and see. Yeah, look at that. Now we got the paddles moving. But oops, yeah, the left paddle looks broken. So let's figure out what happened with that paddle on the left. Now I think my positions are just messed up. Oh yeah, center-wise, so we got to give this one the top too. So now, no, it wasn't just that. It looks like I still have something else wrong. Okay, pong paddle, pong paddle. Player 2 paddle's working. But this one's not. Now why is that? Let's give it a bigger one. Interesting, so 20 was just not enough? Was it way, way, way over on the side? Can I just not see it? No, it's like it's not even visible. So I guess it needs more? Let's give it 50. Yeah, so, oh, at 50 it just barely shows up. It's like there's 50 off. Yeah. Okay, well that's fine. We'll just say 70. Okay, so now, uh-oh. No attribute name player 1 paddle? Now is that true? Oh no. I need to fix this. Okay, now this should work just fine. Okay, I'm gonna make it full. Look at that. Now we've got paddles that move, and it doesn't move along the X, but depending on which side you click on, it moves. And so you can... And in this case, it doesn't have the drag, it's only a single click. So, not drag feature yet, just click, but no matter what side you're on, it looks like it's working, so... Very cool. Learned a lot so far. I like this format for doing the layouts. It's pretty straightforward, and I can get used to that. Okay, so yeah, we need to bounce the ball, so I wonder if there's any kind of... Yeah, here's the collision detection, but you gotta... If collide widget? Oh! So do they have a built-in function to detect collision? If they do, that's really awesome. Okay, so yeah, pong paddle. If collide widget. Okay, hold on a second. So in the update, we can just try this. So on the update, the ball moves, and they'll say if self.ball.collide, what did they call it? Is up here, collide widget. If that collides with another widget, like, let's say player 1, or self.ball.collide widget with self.player2, then we want the ball.x velocity to turn around. So we multiply it by -1. So does that work? Oh, it does! Look at that! Wow! That's so cool that they just have a function called collide widget and you can detect collision. That makes a lot of game, like 2D game development, much easier. Oh, that was interesting. It's kind of... Oh, I see, yeah. It's because it's getting behind the... Yeah, so we're not detecting wind conditions yet, but this is interesting. Yeah, so like the one on the left, it's way too tall. Something's wrong with the paddle on the left. The paddle on the left is like way too tall and too wide. Oh, I know what it is. It's down here where I made the second... Where I made the... size 100, 100. But why that doesn't... Oh, yeah, because it starts from the left. So the size is actually 10 and... I don't know, 50? Okay, so let's restart it now. That's better. So now the paddles... No, there's still like... There's like a big padding around it on the right side. So why is there a big padding? I guess that's the X. Well, hang on. So we're detecting we're using the collide widget to do the collision, and it seems to be colliding too early with the one on the left. You see how the one on the right's okay from the left side, but when colliding on the right... So, okay, maybe the widget has a size and then the rectangle has a size, so what if we specify the same size there? Now, will this work any better? Sort of. It is sort of working better. Okay, so there's two sizes here that are getting conflicted. Now, are there three sizes? Is there the widget size, the canvas size, and the rectangle size? Do I need to set all three of them? No, so the canvas doesn't have the size, but the widget does. So that does look a lot better. There's only a tiny bit of buffer, if any, on the right one. Right? Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Now I wonder if I just leave off the size here now, if it'll just inherit from the widget. Oh, now we can see what's going on a little more. Like, why is this one so... Oh, I bet let's see. Let's minus this one by 70. It's just too far off on the right. That's what's going on. So they're both really big boxes. But now the collision is totally broken. Well, not broken, but it's just weird. Okay, yeah, so let's put the size back in the rectangle. And now let's rerun it. Yeah, okay, so let's put the size on both of them again. Okay. So that looks better. Okay. Awesome. That is looking a lot better now. It sounds a little tense. Alright, let's see. We were doing an hour and 12 minutes. And so, with this example, I think I've got all the fundamentals that it was trying to show, and this is actually pretty cool. So, I'm not going to do the last little bits where I debug why, well, I know why it's bouncing multiple times like that, but and I know why it's not doing the wind detection, but we'll skip that because that's just a couple more if conditions, and my goal here is not to build a Pong game. I was just trying to go through their tutorial. So let's see if there's anything else in this tutorial that looks really interesting. It was really cool seeing that they have the collision detection and the schedule interval. And so it doesn't look like there's anything else here. So where to go now? Have some fun. Okay, now, what else did they suggest? Now, I do have some of my own agenda here. I'll type it out so you can see, like, my goal here was how to make labels. And we already saw that, right? And we already saw how to make buttons, but we didn't see how to do make callbacks with the button. And we didn't see how to get and set data in labels and text boxes. And also we want to see how to create a text field. Okay, and let's just in general browse the widgets available to see what we have available to us. Mr. Banana asks, what modules are you using? And we're using Kivy. I'm not sure if you mean like Kivy specific modules or just in general, but in general we're using a package called Kivy to do this. Okay. And what else? I had a couple other things on the list. Oh yeah, are there menu items? Is there a menu system? And we already looked at how to draw shapes, how to draw rectangles and ellipses. So we already saw that actually. And how to listen for keyboard events. Keyboard and touch events. Well, actually it was just touch events. That's all we saw. So yeah, maybe how to listen for key presses. Okay, so... Oh no, I closed my whole Firefox. Good thing I made some bookmarks. Let's go back to the introduction. Now, what is this song? No thanks. Okay, so we went through its first app. We went through the first app, which was, well, they told us to go through the Pong one. Okay, so now we're done with the Pong tutorial, and we learned some good basics. I'm actually gonna save. That's not it. I'm gonna save the project that we have now. So that's good enough for what I wanted to do there. So let's go ahead and create a Git repository. And in our git ignore, let's also add the idea folder. So let's add, and then let's commit. We'll say working hello world and framework for a Pong game. And I'm not pushing it yet because I don't have a remote repository, but I'll tell you what, I'll push it right now just in case anybody wants to try it out, because I'm about to take a quick break. I'm going to take a break and get some water and give my eyes and my back a rest. So I'm going to push it all up to GitHub in case you want to take a look and maybe run the examples and play with it yourself. Kivy for Python examples. Okay. And before I do that, I actually do want to update the README really quick just to link to the installation page. Kivy installation instructions. Okay, and the Kivy homepage. Okay. Okay, let's finish, let's create and copy the URL. Git remote add origin git push origin master. And there it is. It's up at github.com/devdungeon/Kivy examples. So go give that a look. Oh, well, let's see. Mr. Banana asks, how long have I been coding? And it's kind of a tough question. I started a long time ago back in like the late 90s doing QBasic, but I was really young then, so professionally I've only been programming maybe a little over 10 years professionally, but maybe 20 years as a hobby. Okay, I'm gonna go take a quick break. I'm gonna stretch and get some water and stuff. I recommend you all do the same thing. So go check out this URL if you want to. And I'll be back in like 5 minutes. I'm gonna play some music and put up the VR back screen. Alright, I'm back. So where did we leave off? We just finished doing their first tutorial. Let me turn this music down. Okay. So, let's see. Just got back from a break, and today we're looking at Kivy. And we started by going through the installation and going through the first tutorial that they recommend. And in that case, it was a Pong game, and learned a lot about the fundamentals. I wasn't expecting to start off with a game, actually. I was expecting to start off with just a very simple GUI application, but their tutorial put us right into the Pong game. And so we learned how to use the .kv, the KV coding language. And it's basically like, it's kind of like a YAML format, or I don't know what to describe it as, but it's just nested layers that define where your widgets are, your whole layout on your screen. Mythic says hello. Welcome, Mythic. You joined, I guess, right as we got back from a break. And we learned how to create the widgets, how to create an app, and then pass it a root widget, and then how to create sub-widgets that go inside of the root widgets. And so if we run it, you can see this is kind of where we left off and what we came up with. Now, I'm not going to do any more on this Pong tutorial. I'm going to go on and continue with the examples that I wanted to learn in the first place. But this was very useful, and I learned a lot from doing it, so their tutorial was really cool. And I just pushed up the code to GitHub on the Dev Dungeon. So there was a couple. Now I'm going to start a new project. I'm going to kind of start scratch. And now that I have a couple basics under my belt, I'm going to try and just work towards a goal instead of doing any more tutorials or anything. But we're still going to need their reference, definitely. So we'll call this one... why don't we call it the REST tester? And I kind of talked about this yesterday, but basically what I want to do here is, yeah, we'll add it. Okay, so the goal with this REST tester is to perform HTTP requests and print the responses, and that's really it. So there's basically going to be a field for the URL, a text field, then there's going to be a drop down so you can choose the method, get, post, put, attach, delete, whatever, and then the body, the response body, and we'll just start with that. Like, if we can get those pieces working, then we can customize it and add more to it later. But it would be cool if we can get that. So we need like a text field and a button, and we're going to need to attach a callback to the button. We're going to need to attach a callback to the button. So we can start, let's start, we have to build an app first, right? So we'll say class, and the naming convention is something app. And in this case, we'll call it our REST tool. I'll just call it the web tester, and we're going to call it web tester one word, just to avoid any confusion, because the naming conventions were kind of specific here. So it wanted basically a file called webtester.kivy, and that's where we started off with the Kivy version we're using, 1.10.1, and then we say basically our base widget, and we can call it maybe base window, and then we're gonna have to build that here. So we give it an app, gonna have to import app, and then we got to give it a build function, and then we have to return the widget, and we'll return a widget called base window, and like that, and then we'll return the base window. So now we have to create the class, and we're going to inherit the widget property. Okay, and we want the Kivy widget. Okay. Okay, so now we should be able to run it, and it should give us a blank screen. I guess it just exits because we didn't call run, so we have to do an if name equals main, and then we'll create one. We'll call it web tester equals new web tester app, and then run. And then if we run it, it should give us a blank window. Okay, so now we've got a blank window, and in our webtester.kv file, we can start, because we created this base window widget, we can go in here, and I believe that's how we do it. So I'm going to refer to how we did it here. Yeah, the widget name in brackets is the root widget, and then you can pass in the class name or whatever. So here it would be something like this, right? And then the size is, we'll call this 100 by 100. Now how do the other rectangles look? Oh, position. Position. I guess we'll just start with, well, let's try no position. Let's just see what happens then. Okay, so the coordinate system starts at the bottom left, it looks like. So 0, 0 is where it defaults to. Defaults to 0, 0 position. And that's a 100 by 100 box. Okay, so background defaults to white. Now, size. Now can we do root dot width by root dot height and get one that's 100% of the screen? Okay, cool. So now we've got a rectangle. I don't know what to do with this rectangle. I just got it now. I'm just getting the app stood up and getting ready. So now what we want is, well, we need a text label. Now, do we put those all in? No, we don't put them all inside the canvas. So I guess the canvas is a special widget type of its own, and that's where you draw a bunch of two-dimensional stuff. Like, so I don't think I can put a rectangle out here without being inside a canvas. It probably airs out. Yeah, it airs out, it looks like. But I can put, okay, so I want a different widget, so I want a text widget now. Kivy text widget. Not a label, yeah, text input. Kivy.uix.text input. The text input widget. Okay, so text input. Is that how we would do it, or do we need to? Yeah, we would do it right here. Okay, back in the, let me close the Pong one. So we have a text input, and what kind of properties does it take? So you can create them in the code, like in Python itself, it looks like. Okay, and then you bind it. No. I'm trying to figure out if you do it in the KV file. The list of properties. Okay, so let me go back up to the top here. Usage example. Text is a property. Let's just try this and see how it works. Okay, so we get a text box. That's kind of what we wanted. But the size is not very good. So let's try making it wide. but not very tall. Okay, that looks better. So now we've got a text area there. And actually, we don't even need the rectangle. I wonder if they have comments. I wonder if I can comment it out like that. I can. That's cool. It's good to know that you can comment out in the Kivy language there. Okay, so we got a text area, but now I wonder if you can group. I guess you can group them into sub-widgets, but I'm going to need a label before that, and it's going to say the text for the label is going to be the ID on this one is going to be the URL, target URL. Text is we'll give it some default text. Okay, default text ID of target URL. Before that, we need a label that says this is the URL. Okay, so now we want them to show up next to each other, not on top of each other. So let's see if there's options for layout. Kivy layout language. Yeah, Kivy design language. Now there should be a way. Yeah, grid layout. There it is. Okay, so you make a grid layout with rows and columns. That's what I want. But how does it know what row and what name? I guess it just goes left to right, left to right. Okay, so we want a grid view. Is that it? Grid view, grid layout. And then you give it the calls in the rows. And in this case, I'm gonna want a few. Let's just go with, for right now, let's say there's 2 columns in 1 row. And then it's these 2 things. Now, is that enough? Will that work? It does. Okay, but the width... Yeah, the width got kind of screwed up there. Okay, so the grid layout, let's say for the width on that, we'll make that the whole width of the whole thing, and the height. Root that height. That way it should take up everything. There we go. And it's automatically going to lay out as we need it. So as we add more things to the grid, it'll start compacting itself, and I'm okay with that. So let's say there's 2 rows. Will it freak out if we don't give it enough things? No, it'll be okay. So actually, we just kind of want to duplicate this whole thing, and wait, where did it go? There it is. Okay, now we have the URL in 1, and then this is going to be the method. And we actually want a drop-down. We want like a drop-down option list. So what kind of widgets do we have available that do that? Wiki? I want a list of all the widgets. I just want to browse and see what widgets they have available. Let's see, widgets. A collection of Kivy widgets from the community. Oh, those must be a bunch of cool third-party widgets that do a bunch of neat things on top of all the core. Oh yeah, I think it can take CSS as well. I think that was one cool thing about it. You basically style it with CSS, but I haven't got there. So yeah, styling with CSS, is that right? Okay, I really want a list of the widgets. Kivy widget list. Kivy widget list. Here we go. Label. Okay, yeah. UX widget. Classical user interface widgets. Label, button, checkbox, image, slider, progress bar, text input, toggle button, switch, and video. And then there's layouts. Okay, so we looked at grid layout already. And then there's anchor layout, box layout, float layout. Okay, so the one that we were using was like the freeform one originally in the Pong game. It was kind of a freeform layout, I guess, or it was stacking it up from the bottom left. It probably defaults to the stack one. I think that's what it did. And then it's got some complex UX widgets. Bubble, drop-down list. And that's what I wanted, so I opened that in a new tab. File chooser, pop-up, spinner, list view. I might want one of those. Tabbed panel, video player, and virtual keyboard. Wow, those are some pretty cool ones. Video player might be interesting. Behaviors widgets. These widgets do no rendering, but act on the graphics instructions or interaction behavior of their children. Scatter. Yeah, I'll skip those for now. Screen manager. Manages screens and transitions when switching from one to another. Okay, so I wanted the drop-down list. That's really what I wanted. And this is what I wanted. Here we go. Custom drop... Oh! Interesting. So you define in the Python code where you define your widget. So we'll create one. We'll call it HTTP method dropdown. But instead of inheriting from widget, we're actually gonna inherit from dropdown list. Or what is it called? Dropdown. So we inherit from dropdown instead. And then we can go back into here, and this is where we can say what do we call it? HTTP method dropdown. HTTP method dropdown. And then inside of that, we give it the things we want. So I don't know, let's just try a label for now. Testing. Okay, does this work? No, it didn't. Like invalid class name, HTTP method dropdown, HTTP method dropdown. Now, why is that invalid? You could create a dropdown directly from your Kivy. Okay, and that's what I'm doing. I guess maybe I need to do it like this. But then, how would I add it into the layout here? Bind it to... You bind it to a button? Hold on, let's look for an example. Kivy dropdown example. Basic example. A button with a drop-down list of 10 possible values, and there's the example. Okay, all the buttons within the drop-down list will trigger the dropdown.select method after being called. So do we need to pass it? Does it need buttons? Does it really, really need a button? Oh! I think it did because it started working. So testing 2. Okay, but we're not using it anywhere. Can I... That doesn't feel like it should work. It kind of does. Oh, it went away. Okay. Let's see. Now... Okay, so you can see it kind of made the button down here where it says testing 2. So it's trying to work. And then, yeah, so it should be showing up in this square on the bottom right. That's where the whole drop-down menu has to do it. So what if we did size parent.width, parent.height? Will that help make it any bigger? Oh, well, I think then maybe we need to add it back here. Oh. Yeah, okay, it doesn't like size. But it has a button there, and I guess they said it calls the select callback. So if we define a select, then we can say the drop-down option was selected, and then print out what the option was. So now if we click it, we should see some text in the bottom. No, we didn't. Okay. Let me see if this example has any better help. Okay, so you add a bunch of buttons and then you bind them. And then you add the widgets. You're adding the buttons to the drop-down? Okay, well I'm doing that in the Kivy file. Interesting, so you have to call dropdown.open, extending dropdown in Kivy. You could create a dropdown directly in your Kivy, and this is what we're doing. Oh, I see. On release. Interesting. I'm gonna try copying over their example. Okay. Okay, that is working better. And we can click it. And we can click the other one. Okay, so it's open and it's staying open. So what we need to do is call these dropdown.open and dropdown.close on some kind of event. It's interesting. I wish, like in a normal GUI, if you're doing a drop-down, they give you the drop-down menu with the button, and you click the button, and you got the list of items. You don't have to explicitly tell it, okay, now you need to open the drop-down menu, and now you need to close it. But because I guess this is really aimed more at mobile. It's aimed more at mobile and touch, and you can kind of tell that because of the way the layouts are done. And the way the layouts just kind of automatically stretch. Oh, we got some comments. Buzzmin Kyonhoon says, man, why you so overpowered? It's all the StarCraft I play. That's why I'm so overpowered. And Lesik Suretny says, you are the best. Thank you. Thank you, you're the best. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying, and I'm always looking for good topics to cover, so if you have any ideas or suggestions, not just for tonight on what we look at here with Kivy, but on any other night. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out why the buttons, the buttons are kind of working. So I'm gonna do, because the drop down is proving to be a little annoying, I'm gonna do something different, and I'm just gonna make a set of buttons because there's only so many options with HTTP. So I'm gonna okay. What I'm gonna do is just put the buttons right in the grid. So inside one, how do I make a group? I guess I make another grid layout inside of it. And this one's gonna be calls to rows to, and it's gonna have 4 buttons. And that's all it's gonna have. Okay. So we got 1 button. This is gonna be get. Yeah, we're gonna do a get request. And then on release, well, we'll figure out the callbacks in a minute. Okay, so we duplicate. Oh no. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. This is gonna be the get, the put, the post, patch, and why not, we'll do delete too. And delete. So, what does it not like? Height, text. It doesn't like the text. Oh, I just have some stray text. Okay. Okay, so now we can enter our URL that we want to hit, and then we can get, put, post, patch, delete, or whatever we want on it. So then we're going to want another box down here for our output. And what's interesting is this will, because this should work on mobile too, right? This theoretically will just open up and work as is on a mobile app. And basically to test it, you would just kind of shrink it down and be like, okay, this is approximately what it would look like on a mobile phone. Buzzmin says, I have an idea. Prepare yourself for record 17-hour coding. Make an admin panel in Django or Node. And make the Android app connect using the REST API. So, that's not a bad idea. And AWS. Yeah, I do very little with AWS. I use their S3 storage for some stuff. Like I have a Raspberry Pi time-lapse photo taker that makes videos, and I just throw the videos up to S3. That's pretty much the only thing I use it for. Okay, so we got this, we got our buttons. Now what we need to do is tie the button push to an event that will pull that URL. So what we need is something like in our base window, we need a function that'll do something like perform HTTP request, and it's going to get the URL from the text fields, and then perform request, and then put the output in a result field. And so in our base widget here, we created this thing called URL with the ID of target URL. So I think we can call, we'll just call this one init, I guess, just for now. Oh, yeah, call super init too. Okay. And just for debugging purposes, I just want to print out self dot, and what is it? Target URL? Target URL dot, well, let's see if we just print. I might have to do something like get text or get value. It has no attribute named target URL. Okay. So it's going to be self dot do we have to do it like this? Do we have to say ID is grid? Then do I have to do grid.target layout like that? Target URL? No. Okay. I'm getting my things mixed up. So it's not the ID that defines the variable in... Oh, I think we have to do... I gotta pull up the reference in the one we just did. So to get the variable inside... Let's look at the Kivy file here. Okay, so... This is where we define it as the variable. Okay, and then we tie that to an ID. Okay, so what I need to do here is call it URL, and then we'll target it at the one called target URL text field. And then down here we've got the text input, and I'll go ahead and call that target URL text field. Okay, so now in here I should be able to say self.url. No attribute named URL. Okay, oh no. I put this inside the grid layout when it should just go right there. And I can delete that. Okay, so that should work better. There we go. And so down here we see that we have a text input object. So we got a reference to the object. Now we need to check, how do we get the text out of it? Is it called .pull text, .get text? How do I pull? Is it called get text? Text.text? Let's see. Let's scroll down to the T's. I bet it's called .text. Yeah, boom. .text, text of the widget. Oh no, that's... Well, that might be the contents. Yeah, okay. So let's go back to the code and we'll say print out the text. Perfect. Now we can see that it actually prints out the contents of our text field. So we want to do... Then we actually want to do the get on it, right? So we'll do like requests.get self.url.text. Now we do want to trigger the appropriate response, so we'll probably predefine the request and then update the method accordingly when we actually call it. But we don't want to do that right here. We actually want to do that on the button callback. And so in the other example, what they did was on release. So we'll say Kivy button on release. I think we can just define a function called on release, or just tell it which function to call on the on release. Trigger action. Trigger whatever actions have been bound to the button by calling both the on press and on release callbacks. Oh, that simulates a button press. Yeah, I want... here we go, yeah. My button behavior, and on release. Okay, so let's do this. We've got a button and on release. I guess we can probably just specify it in the KV file, because I saw them do this. So on release, can we just do... So self would be button, it would be self parent, parent, I guess root. So we could say root dot perform get request. Oh, I don't know if that's gonna work, but why not? We'll give it a shot. And so here we'll say def perform get request, and then yeah, we'll just print it out in that case. We'll just say basically print get and then the URL. Okay, so that hopefully should get triggered only when we push the button. And if we click get, this is going to be the moment of truth. Does it pop up in the debug log? It does! Awesome. So, yeah, there seems to be a sort of slow delay. Delay? Okay. Well, either way, that is very good. Now we can trigger it, so let's go actually do the request now, since that is the point we want to do it, and let's put the output, well, let's get the response equals, and then we've got the response status code and the response.text to do something with. Now it'd be cool if we showed both of them, but for now I'm just going to focus on the text because you could easily expand it later. So we want to set the output text. So we want to create a widget, and we're just going to call it body. Self.body.text equals response.text. Okay, then in here we can create a variable called body. We're gonna have to tell it, excuse me, I need some water. Alright, sorry about that. So, we're creating a variable on the class called body, and actually I want to call it response body, just to be a little more clear. Okay, and the response body, we're going to give it to something called, with the ID of response body text field. I know it's kind of verbose, but that's okay. And then here in the grid layout, after the buttons, we want to add a text field with the ID of, I don't know what it's called, so is it called the text field? Kivy text area widget. We have to get the actual proper name. It's not a text, I guess it is just the normal text input, and they don't really, yeah, see, they don't really differentiate between a single and a multi-line one. Okay, multi-line equals false. Okay, so I wonder in the Kivy for this one if I can say, right down here, if I can say multi-line equals false. Will that work? No. Well, no, it's complaining because the text input ID and the text by default. Actually, well, on this one we'll say multi-line is true. We'll see if it likes that. List index out of range. I think I have too many. I have too many things in the grid now. So I need to expand the grid. We'll give it 3 rows now. Okay. I know it's really ugly. We'll fix the layout in a minute, I promise. I just want to make sure it works. Okay. So now, yeah, it looks like, okay, yeah, so this one does not anymore allow multiple lines, while this one does allow multiple lines. When I press enter in here, it doesn't do anything. So this one is enforcing the single lineness of the URL. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're actually going to give it a URL. We've got text in here, but this is the result, and it should get output. It should get overwritten when we click on get. So we're going to click on get, and we expect this to get updated in the bottom left after a second. So get, and the moment of truth, is it actually going to get? And it did! It worked! We just made a working REST tester beginnings. We've got to tie up some of the other buttons, clean up the layout, but for the most part, it works. You can give it a URL, you can click get, and it'll get the contents for you. Now, I am curious how it handles the threading. Like, does it automatically create a thread for the button processing? It probably doesn't. So, if you do that and then you're waiting, is it going to lock up everything else? I guess we'll find out. We'll see how that works. Okay, so I'm going to click. Yeah, I think it is, because now it's kind of hanging. I think it's hanging because I clicked get too many times, yeah. And it was waiting for all the threads to finish, so... Okay, so we'll have to add some threading on certain things, like the get requests, most likely. Okay. So on this one, what you could do is create a different function for each one, and on this one say, okay, perform post request, but I wonder if you can just say something like this, like, can you put in code just like that? And can we just update a variable in the root? So let's go over here and create a method variable that doesn't have anything in it. And then, well, now how would we check it? I guess we'd have to check it here. I could set a breakpoint and check it. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it in debug mode. And do get. And it should do the get, and then it... Oh, it's got a problem? What is this complaining about? Oh, I think it's just complaining about some debug stuff. Okay, so... Is it not triggering my breakpoint yet? Oh, because I'm never calling the... That's a bad place to put the breakpoint because it's never calling. Let's do this one. On this one, we'll call root.perform get request. And did we put the parentheses? I can't remember. Okay, so now if we do get, it'll set it. And then clicking the other one will call it. And then we can breakpoint there. So let's debug mode, click get, and that should have set the member variable. Now if we hit put, it should breakpoint. There, it breakpointed, and now we're in the debugger. Now if we look, I want to look at the method variable, and it did. Look, it updated it to a string. So cool, it looks like you can put, like, you can just put Python code right there. So that's probably what I would do, is just update the method. So on release, just update the property. Well, you want it to update the property and then can you do something like this? Can you do 2 Python commands? Can you just put a semicolon and do 2 things like that? I wonder if you can. Okay, let's try it. Let's hit the put button. Oh, it did! That worked! Interesting. Interesting. So what's the best way to do it? Every time someone clicks a button, you update... Well, I guess the better way to do it would be like this. You would do perform HTTP request, and then you'd pass it whatever the method you want to use, get. And then here you could say do post or put. And this one would be a post. Might as well wire these all up. And then delete. Okay, and then we can rename this from perform get request to perform HTTP request, and we can take the method as the argument, and then turn off the breakpoint, and we'll say requests.request. We'll create a new request object, and then we'll set request method equals and we'll say to upper. I think that's, is it just upper or is it to upper? Or do we do it on the string object? So we'll say self.url.text.upper, and then we'll say response equals requests dot. Oh wait, we do request dot prepare. Hold on, requests request object. Okay, so constructs and then sends a request. Method for the new request object. Prepare. I don't want it to prepare, I want it to actually send requests dot send prepare. Something seems a little fishy there. Requests prepared request. I'd like a better example, please. Prepared requests. Requests. Prepare. Okay, so you have to create a session, it looks like. Okay, so we'll create a new session. And then with the session we'll send our request. Request dot prepare. And actually it looks like we can just pass in our method as the first thing, and then the URL is going to be self.url.text. Okay, and then we'll put the, okay, so this should work, and if not, we'll get an exception. We'll see how it handles exceptions. Will it accept kind of quietly? No, it just worked. Let's try put. Okay, yeah, you see how it's hanging? You see how it stayed, the button stayed pressed, and it like hung? Yeah, so it definitely needs some threading. But it looks like we've now got all the buttons hooked up. We can do all of the different requests with a nice flexible function. Okay, so let's clean up this interface here. So these three on the left can all be labels, and so we're gonna add one more thing to the KV file. Before this text input, we're gonna do a label, and the text is gonna be response body. Okay, now if I restart it, it should look a little bit better. Like, it's not great, but it'll work for our example because it's actually functional, which is cool. So we've got 3 rows, and here we've got the URL, and you can actually give it anything. Let's try something different this time. Like, let's try Reddit. And then the method, so we just click a button. We'll try get, and then in the response body we should see the output after a second or two. It looks like it's still getting. And it's still getting. And it's gotten. Okay, so that one took a while. And it looks like we can scroll through it. So we can scroll through the multi-line. And we can even edit it and copy stuff out of it if we want. You can probably disable editing so that you couldn't change it. But for this, it's okay. We'll allow modifying. Okay, so we basically accomplished the rest test. Well, you know what? Ideally, what we would do is like add another text area that had that would accept custom headers. So you can put custom headers, and another one where you could put the post contents. So like if you needed to have the body have some XML or some JSON, you could paste it in there and then do a post, and then it'll take your parameters and everything, and you can always add more features and stuff, but this has all the basics wired and hooked up, and it's in a state where it can be extended much easier. Okay, so I'm gonna... it's a little slow to... it's actually a little slow to respond in general. Only when I'm trying to exit. I don't know why that is. Okay. But when I click the buttons and everything, it seems just responsive fine. Okay, so the rest tester works. I'm gonna go ahead and push this example up too. Where are we at? We're at 2 hours and 15 minutes. So after 2 hours and 15 minutes of sitting down with Kivy, with pretty much no experience, going all the way from installation through the Pong example, we were able to build this beautiful rest tester. I call it a rest tester, but it's basically just an HTTP getter. So, does anybody have any questions about anything I've done? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and commit and push these things up to GitHub. Git commit, we're gonna say working basic example of an HTTP REST tester. Okay, git push, yeah, I'm gonna set my upstream to origin master. And let's go back to my agenda and see, okay, so now we can cross off how to make callbacks with buttons, and that is the on release. And so there's a couple ways to do that too, and I like how you have the option to do these things in the KV file. So in this case, like the button, I tell it what to do on the on release here in the KV. But I could create a special class and tell, like, I think I can basically create the on key down or whatever. You can, so you can define what happens in the Python code or in the Kivy, which is pretty nice. Okay, so I say that's pretty good for... We browse the widgets available. We figured out how to set and get the label. There's no menu system, and we figured out how to do that basically on key press call down. So these are the only two things that were kind of questions in my head that I still haven't gotten an answer to yet. So I'm gonna try and answer these real quick. Is there a menu system? And can you style it with CSS? And I did see some stuff about styling, so yeah, Kivy theming. The default Kivy theme is loosely based on the Moblin mobile interface. The background images for all Kivy widgets are all pulled from the PNG file images default theme. Okay. So it looks like there are a few themes out there. Yeah, okay, rolling your own. Of course, you are free to create your own widgets or override the graphical properties, both background images and drawing instructions of the default widgets to create an entirely unique look and feel for your apps. So, Semnome, is that how you say your name? Semnome asks, you gonna start making pen test tools? And the answer is yes? Question mark? I mean, yes, I've written some already, and so I guess you could say I've already done that, but not so much on the stream. I've only done some basic stuff on stream. I did some port scanning, and yeah, I did some web scraping stuff yesterday, kind of related to doing bug bounty stuff. So yeah, my channel, I try and cover all kinds of development topics, and that is everything from just working with spreadsheets and REST APIs to, yeah, building pen test tools, doing bug bounty testing, writing games, doing Arduino and Pi stuff, graphics work, audio work, just all kinds of stuff related to programming. But I do security professionally, and I have a very strong interest in security, and I want to start doing the bug bounty hunting stuff more. So like if we look at the GitHub repo, you can see some of the stuff we've been working on in some of the streams. I push a lot of the code we do up. So today we've got the Kivy examples. The cookbook is always being added to. We did some port scanning stuff in a variety of languages. We did C, Go, Python, and Java. And then the other day before that, we did some Drupal exploit. The Drupal exploit, the big CVE. Django, login with Discord, lots of Discord bot stuff, PayPal integration, Minecraft server customization. But yeah, I do, to answer your question, again, yes, I do plan on doing more security stuff and writing some pen test tools. If you're into security and that stuff, you should check out my book, Security with Go, and in there you have lots of examples of stuff that you can use to build more pen test tools. Okay, so I think, okay, the theming, yeah, so CSS with Kivy? Does CSS, yeah, so I'm not sure, but no. Okay, it does not, no, the question here was, does it support HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? Okay, styling, look and feel. Okay, so it looks like to do the styling, you have to overwrite the draw functions or images, or the widget images. So that's how you theme it. You actually have to kind of rebuild the widgets or override their properties. And the menu system, I don't think there is a menu system. Let's look in the quick search. Okay, they have an interface with sidebar menu, accordion. Let's see. So they have this accordion. The accordion's pretty cool. It's similar to tabbed content, but it kind of slides around. Okay, so Kivy menu system. I don't think there is much menu support because it's not meant to be, it's not aimed at regular desktop apps like where you do file, edit, help, about. It's aimed more at mobile apps. So I think that's why they give you all that control over the drop down. If you want to make a menu, you've got to make a little like hamburger icon that they click, and when they click it, you drop down the menu. Kivy modern menu. Oh yeah, so there was some third-party sites that had like lists of third-party widgets. I guess I closed it already. Okay, menu system. So no, not really. Okay, so I got through everything I was really interested in looking at with Kivy. We looked at all of these things here, how to make labels, how to draw rectangles and ellipses, listening for touch events, making buttons, listening, triggering callback events with the buttons, creating text fields, looking at all the available widgets, getting and setting text in text boxes, how to listen for key presses, and we looked into styling and menus, which don't really exist. And just to kind of recap, I'm going to pull open the Pong file we made. Oh wait, wrong one. I gotta right-click it here. Right-click Run. And so this was the amazing Pong starting tutorial we did. Like, we didn't implement the win condition or the goals or anything, but we figured out that you can do collision detection right built in with Kivy. The widgets themselves have a function. You just say widget.does collide, and then you give it the other widget, and it just tells you does it collide with that other widget, which is really a super powerful feature. And then we, like here, we're taking the click events, we're detecting collisions, and we're animating the ball. So that was the Pong example, which was fun. And then we've got this rest tester, which is probably the most hideous interface you've ever seen, but that's what you get when you design, when you get design from a developer. You get stuff like this. So this can be cleaned up for sure. The top row should be shrunk to be like 1 line tall. The buttons can be really made really small, and then like all the rest can be left for the body. But I'm not gonna go through the styling of that. I wanted to make sure everything works and it's hooked up. So I'm gonna push this example. Oh, it looks like I already did. Git push. Okay. So I pushed that one up to GitHub too. So if you go to github.com/devdungeon/Kivy examples, all of these examples that I did, the Hello World, the Pong, and the rest tester, they're all up here, and you can check them out, run them, play with them, expand on them, do whatever you want. So I'm gonna wrap up soon, but I am just gonna kind of look around at Kivy for Android. And how do you compile it for Android? Yeah, creating a package for Android. And Kivy app examples. So we can see, I'll look at that first. Gallery of examples. Okay, let's see. Let's just go ahead and open a whole bunch of these. Bunch of random ones. Let's see what it can do. Okay, the spinning. Okay, so yeah, it supports OpenGL. And here's the code. So we can do GL matrices. So it looks like a pretty straight through usage of OpenGL. Widget animation. Suite of application builders. Interesting. Okay, so you can do drawing and some sliders. These are all just toy examples. I want like a real apps, like real apps that are built. Interesting. So they have their own package system called Gardens. I think Gardens are just what earlier I saw the Gardens, and yeah, there's basically a collection of widgets. The garden is basically just a collection of third-party widgets. Okay, Kivy on Android. You can run Kivy applications on Android or any device with OpenGL ES 2.0, Android 2.2 minimum, which goes back all the way to the Atrix, so that's old. This is standard on modern devices. Google reports 99.9% of devices meet this requirement. Kivy APKs are normal Android apps that you can distribute. Okay, how do you package? Kivy Project provides all the necessary tools to package your app on Android, including building your own standalone APK that can be distributed on it. Yeah. Okay. Now I should have the Android SDK and everything installed on this virtual machine. You can create a package for Android using the Python for Android project. This page explains how to download and use it directly on your machine, or use the Buildozer tool. You can also see packaging our application for the Kivy launcher. Oh yeah, so they have an app you can install on your phone. You can install an app called the Kivy launcher. And then when you want to run Kivy apps, you don't have to build the whole APK, you can just send it to Python files and it'll run your Kivy app. So the Kivy launcher is a lot better if you're running stuff for yourself or you're just testing. And the bulldozer and building the APKs is good if you actually want to share it. Okay, so how do we do this? Shall we try it? I say we try it. I don't know how far we'll get, but I should have the SDK installed, so yeah, I have a sample app that I was messing with before. So I'm gonna close that. Okay. So we're gonna clone the bulldozer. Kivy bulldozer. And then let's see. Oh, do you need Python 2.7? We'll try creating a virtual environment. So, okay, sudo apt install Python virtual env. There we go. Okay, it's creating a new virtual environment. Now we've got it. Now we can try setup.py install. Okay, we just installed bulldozer. Bulldozer init. This will install bulldozer. Afterwards, navigate to your project directory and run bulldozer init. Okay. So with my virtual environment active, I'm gonna go to Kivy examples. I'm probably gonna need. Interesting, yeah, because I used. I might have to install it to my system packages, but we'll find out. So we'll try the rest tester. Oh, no, we'll try the pong one. And so we'll do bulldozer init. Okay, this creates a bulldozer spec file. It did. Lizik Seretny asks, how do I make the matrix? And it's literally just a program called CMatrix. CMatrix. I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm using. It may be slightly different. Okay, so is that... Now hang on. This creates your bulldozer spec file, controlling your build configuration. You should edit it. Finally plug in your Android device and run. Let's see. Let's see. Vim bulldozer. Okay. 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 Let's see how far that gets. Yeah, sudo apt install zlib1gdev. I will install that for you. Okay, we're just installing some dependencies. Yeah, here, so it's telling us we're gonna need a whole handful of dependencies. It'll probably tell us one at a time. Okay, it's getting further. We'll see if it complains about any more missing dependencies, or... Now, I don't expect this to run because in my virtual machine I do not have an Android device plugged in. So I'm curious if it will at least build the APK. Because if it builds the APK, I'll be happy. You can just copy the APK file over to any Android and just like double click it or tap it to run it. So having the APK would be a big win. And I'm surprised. I guess it automatically found the Android SDK. I have no idea how long that's going to take. Let's check the activity monitor and see if it's even doing anything. Oh yeah, we got... maybe? Any activity? There's definitely... it's definitely downloading something. It's downloading, so I think it may actually be downloading the whole Android SDK. It didn't detect where mine was. It is like, no problem, I'm gonna go download the whole gigantic Android SDK for you. And that's okay, I don't mind if it's gonna do that, but we'll see how it works. Actually, I'm gonna let that run, and I'm gonna take a real short break. Oh wait, there it goes. Look at it downloading. Look at it go. Android SDK tools base installation. Yeah, so it definitely is like installing the whole environment probably right in this folder. You can probably configure in that spec file where the SDK is. I just didn't. I just kind of wanted to see how it ran out of the box. So you can probably reuse SDKs without having to do this every time. But okay, let's let that run. Okay. Packaging with Python for Android. You can also package directly with Python for Android, which gives you more control, but requires you manually download parts of the Android toolchain. Okay, so those are the three options: Buildozer, Python for Android, and the Kivy Launcher app that you install from the Play Store. Okay. This Buildozer is looking pretty promising. So let's go into the Pong. Let's see what it's... Okay, so it's creating a bin directory. And there's nothing in it yet. So I wonder where it is building. Where is it building all of that stuff? Buildozer? Okay, so now I'm in my home directory. And it looks like it created a folder called .buildozer. And in there is where it's installing the Android SDK, so it looks like it is installing its own Android SDK independent of the one that I have for Android Studio, but it looks like it will reuse it no matter what project I'm working on. It looks like Buildozer will keep reusing the same SDK, so that's good. This lengthy download and install should only happen once, and then after these it should happen much faster because the SDK and the NDK are really big. Anime Otaku 2000 says, hey, hello, welcome. We are looking at Kivy, and I've actually already accomplished all of the goals on my agenda for the night. And so now we're actually trying to build one of the apps we wrote for Android. And right now it's building and installing all of the Android SDK and NDK. So it's going to take a minute to run and install, and I'm actually going to take a real quick water break while this runs. This might take a minute or two. So I'm going to take a quick water break and I will be right back. Alright, I'm back. And this is still going. So it's still downloading and installing. It may take several more minutes, so while that's going, let's talk about wrapping everything else up. Yeah, I don't want to add... Oh, wait. Oh no, I thought it was installing the whole thing again in this directory, but it's not what I want to do. I want to add .buildozer directories to ignore. So I'll show again just in case maybe anybody just joined at the last minute. We started at the beginning looking at Kivy from scratch. So we walked through the whole install process and everything. And then we went through the Pong tutorial and made this little half playable Pong game. We learned a lot about animation, scheduling events, touch events, and the markup language and everything. And then I took on kind of my own project and we built a REST tester, which again is not the most pretty thing, but it works. And so you can type in a URL and then you can perform any of the operations, and it hangs up for a second because it's not threaded, but then it puts the response down here so you can do all the HTTP requests, and the callbacks to the buttons are hooked up and the text fields are hooked up, and it's all good. So that was a very valuable practice application. And so now the last thing I'm doing is seeing if we can build an Android application about it, because that's one of the most awesome features about the Kivy. So let's check on it. It's still going. It's still installing. There's no percent complete, so we don't know how close it is, but maybe we can look around and see. Yeah, so here's some selected projects by Kivy. So these are some larger applications that people have made to kind of demonstrate the power of it. Okay, they've got some pretty cool ones. It looks like there's some games, some mobile and some desktop stuff, some relatively complex user interface. Uh-oh. It's hanging up. Oh, probably because it's loading a bunch of videos. Okay, so there's like a photo management app. These are all things that are written in Kivy. Okay, this is like a Python editor. What is this? Some kind of processor. What else? Interesting. This is like some kind of robotics machinery controller. That's cool. Oh, this one's nice. And yeah, so Kivy supports multi-touch out of the box. With multi-touch, you know, it detects two people touching at once, or like multiple fingers, so you can do things like pinch zoom. Abed says, "You are a pro coder." Technically that's true. I do get paid professionally to program, so technically I am a pro coder, if you want to think about it that way. So they're just showing a arcade machine. They're not showing exactly what they did with Kivy specifically. Looks like someone made a game here. Uh-oh. So this is a video. This is a game somebody made with Kivy. It's a little kind of like an asteroids game with some physics. What about this one? Powtoon. Oh no, created using Powtoon. No. Okay, looks like a little mobile game. Barley. This looks like the beer rating app. What's that other beer rating app called? I can't remember. Okay. PyCon. Okay, so someone made a mobile app for the Pi Deli conference that has all of the agenda and the speakers and stuff. So that's cool. That's a nice example of an Android app. This looks like some kind of game.
Particle Panda is a sophisticated...
Particle Panda. Hey. I don't see any pandas. Does not look like Panda. But this is cool. Like, so they built this whole UI. You can see all the sliders on the right. Those are the built-in Kivy sliders. It looks like this is built with all the default theme and everything. But yeah, it supports OpenGL, so you can do all the particles and the lighting and all that kind of stuff. So... Wow. Oh! This one's really cool. There's actually a virtual piano keyboard using the multi-touch turned into a MIDI controller, and it's even got... Wow. And then it's got like a mixing board, purely done graphically with a touchscreen. This is a really cool one. I really like this one. Oh look, you even got your like, with the chaos boxes or whatever they call them. You basically got your own sampler and drum box. That's... Okay, Yeko, Ableton Live Touch Controller. So Ableton is good. It's a program people use a lot for doing looping music. So that's like a pure software, and that's like, you don't have to buy tons of different hardware. You've got like 10 different devices in that one piece of software. That's really cool. So what about this one? This one has some nice workflow gridding and stuff. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's see how this install is going. It's still going. Snyder asks, sorry for this, but why you use Ubuntu? Arch best, by the way. Well, I like Arch Linux a lot, or Arch Linux as well. I'm a big fan of it. I like having the rolling releases to getting the latest updates on everything. And I even did have... I did a stream a couple weeks ago, I guess, about installing Arch Linux. And I even have a really old Dev Dungeon post about installing Arch Linux and customizing it. Yeah, back from 2013. Yeah, so like installing Arch Linux, customizing OpenBox, customizing GNOME. And it's cool if you want to spend all the time doing that, but there's a couple of reasons I chose Ubuntu for this. One, to make it more accessible for people to follow along, because it is really easy to install Ubuntu. And I wanted people to be able to follow along if they wanted to as best they could. And two, because of the software support. Ubuntu is probably the best supported Linux distro out there, in the sense that application distributors, if they support Linux, they most likely provide a Debian, a .deb package, if not a PPA that you can use to install apps. So just the app support is better. Those are really the main reasons I chose Ubuntu. Otherwise, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference for what I'm doing. So the last thing I wanted to do was see if this worked, but I have no idea how long this is going to take. Abed's asking, oh man, this is so cool, where can I do apps? So, again, you joined real late, but it's called Kivy, and you can go to kivy.org. If you go to kivy.org, you go to download, and they have all the installation instructions. And you can go to help, and they've got all the documentation and the tutorials. Other than that, you can watch the stream or go through any of their tutorials. Okay, so I'm gonna give up on their Android one. I'm gonna let it keep running, but I'm going to wrap up the stream. I'm not gonna hold it up on that. But it looks like it's working pretty well, so I'm hoping that it will build. I wonder if I can just, I probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna Control-C it, and I'm gonna see if I can just do a build. Unknown command build. How about package? Compile. No, it's anyway, I'll try the bulldozer again another time, but it looked like it was working, and it looked like it was pretty straightforward, so it looked really promising to make Android apps. So I guess I'll close out by saying go to devdungeon.com and do the join me on Discord if you're not already on Discord with us. Do join me on Discord. If you play Minecraft, come check out minecraft.devdungeon.com. Otherwise, check out the YouTube channel, which you're watching on. Go ahead and subscribe, and click the bell if you want notifications to get alerted about the streams going live. I try and do it nightly around 9 p.m. Central. So try and catch it tomorrow or any other day in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other suggestions or questions or anything, please let me know. And other than that, I hope you all have a great night. Have a good one.